for Priti.
Thank you, Mr. President. Pleasure to serve under your chairmanship, and I would like to just commend and congratulate the Honourable Member for Redditch for her contribution today for securing this speech, but actually Mr Gray for her outstanding work at the Home Office, serving alongside me when I was Home Secretary, primarily because she gave a steady hand to a very important piece of legislation called the Nationality and Borders Act, which brought in many measures to deal with and address directly illegal migration, not just the causes, but how we actually bring greater efficiency to the illegal migration system, but actually address the whole issue of deportation and removals, which of course is timely when it comes to this debate on foreign national offenders. And clearly, as a former Home Secretary, I've been involved quite a bit in this line of work, and on my watch, I oversaw the removal of around 12,000 FNOs, despite, I should add, Mr Gray, restrictions caused by the COVID pandemic, that's travel restrictions, relentless and determined efforts by the campaigners that actually my honourable friend, the member for Redditch, touched on, the celebrities, the do-gooders and everyone else, some in the media, parts of the legal establishment, I should say, but also opposition politicians. Now, the removal of those 12,000 foreign national offenders ensured that that made our streets and communities safer and protected the public from crime. And I absolutely promoted what is colloquially known at the time as from the prison to plane approach, to reduce the amount of time FNOs are in our country after they leave custody. And this is absolutely important, and the Minister will understand this and know this, because we can only remove these people once they've left, and then they've got to be in a safe and secure detention facility to then be removed. And it's right that we have that approach, because this actually links to the whole prison places issue and how we get the flow into the system as well. And as the holder of the post of Home Secretary, we're bound by statutory duties to deport those who've been sentenced to at least 12 months imprisonment, unless there are very specific exemptions that apply. But there are other FNOs who can be deported, of course, if their presence is not conducive to the public good, and in particular if they breach their visas or entry requirements into the UK, and there'll be a whole load of associated other issues. Now, removing these individuals is absolutely one of the most serious duties that the Home Secretary of the day has. But with regards to these individuals, we know, of course, of the appalling crimes that they have committed. And that is why the Minister will know this, the Home Secretary is well aware of this, that it is imperative that we remove those who have committed the most heinous crimes, and not only that, those who've been persistent and serial offenders as well. In my personal view, not enough is being done to sentence people to custody for long enough. We already know that there are thousands of criminals who commit serious crimes that are either not sentenced to jail or receive sentences of less than 12 months. I think more needs to be done there. Between 2007 and 2017, there are around 13,000 people convicted of sexual assaults and rapes who were not sentenced to immediate custody, including 900 rapists, with some of those offences being committed against children as young as 13. Half of all sex offenders were not sent to jail by our courts. That's during that period, 2007 to 17. And we know exactly what happened, basically, and those shocking figures demonstrated that some of those offenders responsible for the most appalling crimes would not meet their 12-month custodial sentence threshold to be removed and deported. That is a sobering point, it really is, in terms of the impact, and my honourable friend from Redditch has made this point, the impact that has in terms of public confidence, what this means in terms of community cohesion, but also safety in our own communities. That basically means that there are some terrible offenders who should have been deported, were not deported. And so offenders who are deported, and sometimes on those deportation flights, you know, I'm afraid it's inexcusable that they've been attracting the support of some of the organisations that basically have prevented their removal. They have committed serious offences, and my honourable friend has already made the case around those individuals, and I'm afraid the party opposite would use social media, particularly around some of the flights that I was involved in, to basically campaign on behalf of those individuals and say that they were their constituents and they had a right to be in the United Kingdom, despite the most heinous and appalling crimes that they had committed. So the removal of FNOs, foreign national offenders, is necessary for statutory reasons and for public safety reasons. Their removal is in the interest of the victims of crime. I have met, Mr Gray, too many victims who've been assaulted and abused by foreign national offenders, and we must put their needs first. The needs of the victims must always come first. They are vulnerable people whose lives have been destroyed and shattered by FNOs. They're traumatised. And you know what? They're even more traumatised. They relive that trauma all over again. When they see members of Parliament, celebrities, the media, BBC so-called expert witnesses, as exposed by the Mail on Sunday this weekend, campaigners and lawyers backing the rights of criminals over them. The victims should be supported, not these dangerous FNOs. And we've seen the consequences of what happens when deportation flights are blocked. I used to have to deal with the consequences of them, and I had to deal with those deportation flights that were cancelled because of mutinies by passengers, but also because of the way in which the left and they would lobby in particular. So to conclude, Mr Gray, it is absolutely right. I think that the country knows who are responsible for stopping those flights and stopping the removal of those FNOs. And I would just like the Minister, in his summing up in particular, to just speak very clearly about what is being done now to circumvent and stop those mutinous passengers, to stop these lawyers, to stop people in Parliament as well, campaigning to prevent the removal of FNOs and to ensure effectively that the victims of these crimes are protected and they see justice by seeing the removal of these FNOs.